Be the Talk, episode 319, featuring Leta Greene. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Leta Greene. Leta, are you ready to talk?
I am. I was pretty much born ready to talk.
Leta Greene is a speaker of 2 TEDx talks, as well as the author of 2 books. Leta's programs range from maturation programs to confidence workshops for women, and as an energetic keynote speaker for conference and seminars on resiliency. Leta Greene, welcome to the talk.
That's awesome. I like that I just got a new nickname. That makes me sound cooler. More.
Yeah, how about it? Yeah. Well, I'm going to stumble and stammer all over the place here, Leta, if you let me. Your talk is called Beyond Victimhood. It's a powerful talk that I can relate to. You were on a journey yourself, a humanitarian mission in a developing country, as I have been in the past, and it just really hit home for me when you talked about riding up in a in a nice Western automobile or auto rickshaw or wherever you were in, and you pulled up and you see a small child and a couple of children kind of begging on the side of the road, and your kind of Western privilege kicked in, and you thought to yourself what I thought to myself and every other Westerner that catches themselves or doesn't catch themselves, and we think, where is their mother? And then we realize, is there a mother? And then it hits us. The reality of what's going on in the world and the role that we can play if we will step up to the plate. And there's a number of other very serious topics in your talk. It was very transparent, very vulnerable. Leta, please take us behind the talk.
Well, the funny thing about it is I am a very happy, vivacious kind of person. And so people who've seen that talk and then go see my other TEDx talk are like, is this the same person? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we all have our layers of who we are. And this was about as vulnerable as we can get, coming out to the world saying about sexual abuse. This has happened. It's happening. This is not just in foreign countries. This is in our nice neighborhoods. This is happening. And that had happened to me. And the reason it was vulnerable, the to talk about it. And I'm saying that we can be happy. And if it's, divorce or, tragedy or the death of a child or all these different things, we are often given like the victim card. You get to be a victim now. And I'm saying, you know what? I was a victim. Then I survived it. And now I get to advocate for a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, so what else do you tell people when they are kind of in disbelief with their jaw dropped? What do you do to just kind of stay on the same page?
Well, I just hadn't really talked about it. With the Me Too movement, I realized I just assumed that everybody was like where I was. The statistics of 1 in 3 women, 1 in 5 boys, but you look around and it seems like most people are doing pretty well. And so I just assumed that this wasn't a topic of conversation that was confusing to people. I just assumed that we all knew that you go through your cycle of grief, you do the self-work, and then you're in recovery, and then in time, you get to go on with your happy life. Not to minimize at all what happens, but you get to go on. And then I realized that people were starting to want to use this as a reason to be just mad and angry and totally justified. However, we need to give a new destination to the children that I was given, that you can be successful, you can be happy, resiliency is overcoming difficulty.
Yeah.
And we're all going to have difficulty. One of my hard things was that I was sexually molested for over 12 years. But I'm not now, and I can marry well and have a wonderful, fulfilling sexual life with my partner, and I don't have to be damaged by what happened. And I want to give that message to people. And all those years of all my happy talks with true principles, now I'm saying, yeah, even with this, these principles still apply.
I love with sensitivity. I love the way, kind of the resilient way, that there's a kind of a matter of factness in which you lay this out. Yeah, the bad stuff happens. We don't have to stay there. We can do the hard self work. We can give ourselves time. And yes, we can live happy lives. I think it's a really awesome, hopeful message, as long as we're sensitive to people that are still in that process of deciding what do we do now that, the crud has hit the fan, and it's not easy, and it's not happy, and it's painful, and everything else. And there are so many of us in that decision-making process. And some of us just don't know that we can be empowered. We can choose our response. Others of us, maybe we do know that, but we're just angry, and we're working through, that emotion. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Just like you tell a kid, your feelings are all okay. And we need to give our children the freedom to have all those different feelings and to learn how to deal with them. And when we're stripped to a certain part of our core, we are like a child again, that we have to work through those feelings. And what I'm hoping that comes out of me coming out and saying this is not only that new destination of giving hope, but that we can be kinder how we talk to victims. We can be kinder how we talk to those in survival phase. And that, number one, we can talk about it. Think of all the myriad of issues that we face in our society, suicide, mental illness, sexual abuse. The list goes on and on and on. If we just talk to people and start to see who they really are without our judgment and our labels, our lives are going to be personally more rich, and we're going to give people the freedom to be like going through what they need to go through to be vibrant, amazing, contributing people to society.
Yeah. I love, you really have just this candid, matter of fact way to lay all of these things out. Leta, my question for you is, was there I think for all of us, that is a stage of the grief processing, is deciding what we're going to do with it, working through our anger, all of that. So if it's not too personal or uncomfortable for you, can you kind of take us back there to what you were dealing with, how long it took, and what was maybe the tipping point for you in realizing that you could choose to be empowered and help others?
Well, it's not too personal because I wrote a book about it. So you kind of have to be real. I can't be like, no, sorry, I don't want to. That's
all. Whoop, there it is. It's already out, and there's a TED Talk out.
Right. So when I did that TEDx talk, the book was already in the works, and it was this: do I really want to say this to the whole entire world? So a lot of my vulnerability that I felt was because I know I would be saying it to people who could be, as I would say, poopy about it, right? Not just prior when I shared these things. It was with someone I felt safe with, or that I knew I could help by sharing this with. So going back, I was a 14-year-old girl when I was able to remove the abuser from my life. And I can still remember that moment of defiance. And I did something that only those who knew him would understand how serious this was, but I slammed his car door. And just that moment of walking away after doing this very naughty thing, and threatening him that I would tell, which I did not have the courage to tell for about a year. But, walking away and just being like, and I can't describe it any other way than knowing that when we do not do what is true, there is an energy that is sucked from us. And some people call it God, when we have the energy that empowers us, and, the energy that's sucked from us is, Satan. I like to call him he who is poopy because he wants everything to stink. And I'm also a mother and it's funny. So there's he who is awesome and he who is poopy. But when we give power to evil, it sucks something from us. And that was my first time of stepping into, yes, it might have been scary because it was new ground for me, but I felt that and I wanted more of it.
So that
I wanted more.
that was a place in your life that you can remember. I mean, vivid decades later. And that was your, and this is kind of a man analogy or action movie meme analogy, but that's when you basically tossed the bomb. You tossed the bomb behind you and just started strolling, and the whole thing blew up behind you, and you just kept on.
Hair was like this. It was like all amazing. Yeah, exactly. I knew where you were going. I knew something blew up, and if we were to go with that, it was this really nice car at the top. 83, 84, that was, a pretty nice car, and I slammed the car door. But it did take me time to have the courage to tell people, because what people don't understand, especially when it's not, just an attack off the street, which has this whole other dichotomies and difficulties. But when you are molested as a child or abused by someone that you know, which 90% of those who are abused, it's like between 80 and 90%, depending on where you look for the statistics, are molested or abused by someone they know. They don't just touch your body. They manipulate your mind. And he had done all the groundwork in me that the reason I slammed his car door that day is I realized he was grooming. I realized who he was grooming. He was grooming the neighbor girls. And I didn't have enough courage to stand up for myself. But that kind of it was just this moment of me realizing something had to change. And that's what made me stand up for me, because I didn't have the concept of that I was worthy of protection.
But you stepped up for someone else.
Yeah, I did. And I wish that I'd done that for myself, but I didn't. And if we can give kids a very clear understanding that nobody has the right to make them keep a secret, as I tell my children, any secret you're going to keep, it's going to come out. Like for a surprise birthday party or Christmas present, any good secret, it's going to come out. But if it's meant to stay a secret, it's bad. And you can take it as simple as like gossip. Don't say bad things about people because it's going to come out. So don't say them if you don't want them to come out, right? You were going to say something.
Well, absolutely. So turning point in your life, Leta, is when you really stood up as an advocate, not necessarily for yourself, but for other people. And that allowed you to stand up for yourself. Tell us just briefly before we pivot over to the Blitz round, tell us a little bit about the workshops that you do and how you have all of these amazing programs for other women.
Well, I started becoming a speaker in 2008, and I started speaking about what I knew: confidence, self-esteem, self-worth. Now, with coming out about sexual abuse, you can see the deeper issue of why I spoke on that. I've also been a makeup artist for 26 years now. So I've talked to a lot of women about image and how they perceive themselves. And with coming out with this, I really feel like it was all preparation to say even those principles even apply now. I do maturation programs because kids should not be traumatized to be found out what it means to be a girl. And, I don't talk about this topic in them, but it's just really fun and I enjoy doing them. To the confidence workshops, where it's interesting that sexual predators and traffickers actually look for people who are not confident. They look for girls and young men that have, parent implement. So just by teaching people how to accept a compliment and not be seeking validation from outside sources, how much safer they will be, even if they don't realize you're applying it to this point. But I also add in, where it's appropriate, modules of how to be safe and things to look out for and how to keep toxic relationships at bay.
Well, we've been enjoying this talk with Leta Greene. Her talk is called Beyond Victimhood, and you can certainly hear how she has walked beyond. And we're going to pivot over to you now, Talk Universe, in the Blitz round. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be the Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And it's time for the Blitz round with Leta Greene. I'm going to ask Leta a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent talk. Are you ready, Leta?
Yeah, I am.
First question, were you invited to speak or did you apply?
I applied.
What advice do you have for other people to be able to get accepted?
Apply lots and have a compelling topic. I've been fortunate. I've been accepted each time I've applied, but I think it's because my topic is timely and needed and a different twist on it.
Are you a memorizer, improviser, or a blender?
Naturally, I am a blender. For the TEDx, I'm a memorizer. You have very little time, and it's really hard and lots of work.
Here's the cut for time question. What was the most painful part of your talk to cut out?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a lot of the background story. You want to establish more of a connection with your audience by giving them background and just going right to the chase and the vulnerability of it. And here's my call to action for the world. Yeah.
Where's the line in your opinion? Because you had a very personal, very vulnerable story that's very sad if you're not careful about it. And there's a real line between the cathartic effect if you're the one speaking to 1,000 people or 500 people and maybe going on and on and on, which you did not do. But that could be cathartic if you are not super socially aware of the dynamics of the speaker-audience relationship. And if you're in the audience, we've all been in an audience where somebody said something sad and it just depressed the morale and they went on and on and on. So where was the line for you? How were you able to skillfully use this so that you got to the points, we felt what you felt, and then you turned it around before it became too heavy for the talk or for the audience?
First of all, I don't think we should ever be on a stage for ourselves, and that every principle we share needs to be for the audience. And so with my TEDx talk, I wrote it out and I edited to make sure it was just enough that you knew I knew what I was talking about. So I wasn't saying, oh, I'm way up here and what's wrong with you? That they could say, I'm in the trenches with you. And if it's not about being in the trenches with people and connecting and it's about you, it's wrong. So you got to take all that stuff out, and that's for your girlfriend. That is not for stage. If it's a TEDx stage or any stage.
We've been enjoying this blitz round with Leta Greene. Her talk is called Beyond Victimhood. We're going to have a link in our show notes page to that talk so that you can click on it and watch it. And you can go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com, as well as go to LetaGreene.com, green with an E on the end, LetaGreene.com, and check out what she's doing in terms of her keynotes and her workshops and all the empowering programs that she has put together. We're going to be right back with Leta Greene's final word of advice. Hey, Talk Universe, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted. And it's time for the final word of advice. What is it, Leta?
To realize that everybody has a story. And if we talk to them, which I love your title of your podcast, Be the Talk, if we talk to others and make our journey through life about seeing other people and seeing what their experience is, not only can we learn and become better, but we can make them human. Remove the labels.
Leta Greene, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.